What happens when Hollywood's most composed legend finally loses his patience on national television? Not by an enemy, but by a host who forgot her place. When a talk show host crosses the line from curiosity to pure disrespect. What you're about to witness isn't just an interview gone wrong. It's a showdown between grace and ego, between silence and humiliation. And trust me, this talk show doesn't just test Denzel Washington's composure, it exposes what happens when respect walks off the stage. The lights hit the stage just as Denzel Washington walked out, calm, composed, and radiating that unmistakable presence. The crowd went wild, cheering, standing, holding up phones to capture the moment. He smiled and waved, that same easy smile that had carried him through decades of Hollywood. Jennifer Hudson rose from her chair, spreading her arms wide as if she was introducing a king. But the hug she gave him wasn't just a welcome, it was a performance. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said into the mic, "a living legend." The crowd roared again, but there was a tiny hint of mockery in her tone that only Denzel seemed to catch. His smile didn't fade, but his eyes? They noticed. As the noise died down, Jennifer leaned forward, all smiles for the camera. "Denzel, thank you so much for being here," she said, hands folded like she was doing him a favor. "Thank you for having me," he replied politely. "It's good to be here." She laughed, too loud, too forced, and said, "You know, I grew up watching you." Literally. "I was still in school when you were already, what, famous?" The audience gave a half-hearted chuckle, unsure if that was a compliment or an insult. Denzel tilted his head slightly, his expression unchanged, but the air shifted. "Something like that," he said with a quiet smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Jennifer crossed her legs and glanced down at her cue cards, pretending to stay casual. "It must be nice, huh?" she said, her tone sugar-coated but sharp underneath. "Still playing the leading man at your age?" The crowd went silent. Even the band in the corner froze. Denzel looked straight at her, not angry, just steady, like a man who'd been through this kind of disrespect before and learned how to turn it into a lesson. His voice dropped, slow, measured, cutting through the silence like a knife. "Talent doesn't expire, Jennifer." The words landed hard. The tension rippled through the room. Jennifer blinked, her smile faltering just slightly, but she forced out a laugh to save face. "Of course not," she said, waving her hand. "I was just saying—" But Denzel leaned back, calm and still, and the message was clear. The interview had barely started, and already she'd crossed a line. Jennifer leaned back in her chair, tapping her cue cards against her knee with a sly grin. "Sure, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "But there are so many young actors dying for that shot. Don't you ever think maybe it's time to pass the torch?" The way she said it wasn't playful. It was sharp, a jab wrapped in a smile. Denzel didn't laugh this time. The warmth in his expression vanished. He turned his head slightly toward her, eyes locked, steady and cold. When he spoke, his voice carried the quiet weight of someone who didn't raise his tone, because he didn't need to. "Pass it?" he said slowly. "I lit the fire those torches came from." The audience erupted, claps, whistles. It was the kind of line that demanded respect. But before the reaction could swell, Jennifer's eyes darted toward the crowd, and instantly the sound faded. She tilted her head, smirking as if trying to take control again. "Wow," she said with a half-laugh. "That's a bold thing to say. Sounds like ego talking." Her tone was defensive now, almost trembling under the surface. Denzel leaned forward just a little, his elbows resting on his knees. "Ego?" he repeated, letting the word hang in the air for a moment. "No, that's called work. You should try it sometime. You might understand the difference." The audience burst into laughter. Jennifer's smile cracked for real this time. She looked down at her cards, pretending to read something, but everyone could see it. Jennifer shifted in her seat, her tone sharpening as she leaned forward. "Come on, Denzel," she said, half smiling, half provoking. You've got your Oscars, your legacy. Don't you ever worry you're hogging the spotlight? The crowd stirred, unsure whether to laugh or hold their breath. Denzel tilted his head slightly, his voice dropping lower, quieter, but every word hit like steel. The spotlight doesn't belong to you, Jennifer, he said evenly. It follows whoever earned it. Jennifer's smile froze, but she forced a laugh anyway. Or whoever refuses to leave the stage, she shot back, her tone suddenly colder, more biting. Denzel didn't blink. He just stared at her, calm, steady, completely unbothered. The stage, he said after a pause, has a funny way of rejecting the unprepared. The audience reacted instantly, a mix of chuckles and gasps. For the first time, Jennifer looked rattled. Trying to regain control, she jumped in fast, cutting him off mid-sentence. Well, she said loudly, maybe the younger generation could bring something fresher than the same serious face we've seen since the 80s. Her words landed like small daggers, childish, but meant to wound. Denzel straightened up, the warmth gone from his face. Fresher doesn't mean better, he said firmly. Sometimes experience looks like wisdom. Sometimes inexperience just looks loud. The line hit hard, clean, like a mic drop. The air in the studio turned heavy. You could feel the tension crawl up the walls. Jennifer's laugh came out thin and nervous. Well, she said, trying too hard to sound confident, that wisdom sure didn't stop Fences from flopping at the box office, did it? The room went dead quiet. Denzel leaned in slowly, his eyes locked on hers, sharp, burning. You just insulted a film that put food on hundreds of tables, he said, each word clipped and deliberate. That's not wit, that's ignorance. Denzel leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his voice low but sharp enough to slice through the tension. Let me ask you something, Jennifer, he said slowly, every syllable deliberate. When's the last time you earned respect without singing for it? The words hit like a thunderclap. The audience gasped, a raw, collective sound that filled the studio. Jennifer froze mid-blink, her smile gone, eyes darting to the cameras as if searching for a cue that wasn't coming. For the first time, she looked completely off script. She tried to recover, sitting up straighter, her tone defensive. Excuse me? She said, forcing a laugh that didn't land. I earned this show. Denzel didn't flinch. He stared right through her, voice calm but colder now. You got this show, he said, quiet but devastating. There's a difference. You could practically feel the temperature in the room drop. The band in the corner stayed silent, the audience frozen. Jennifer swallowed hard, trying to keep the smile that no longer belonged to her face, and then she snapped. Maybe the problem, she said, her tone tightening, is you can't handle a woman who asks real questions. That was it, the last attempt to twist the knife. Denzel stood up slowly, never breaking eye contact as he unclipped his mic. The sound of the latch clicking echoed like a gunshot in the quiet room. Real questions, he said, his voice deep and measured. That was ego dressed as curiosity. He paused, letting the silence breathe. And I won't entertain that. He laid the mic gently on the couch. No shouting, no theatrics, just quiet authority. For a moment, no one spoke. The sound of Denzel's mic hitting the couch still hung in the air. Jennifer blinked rapidly, her confidence unraveling right in front of the cameras. Denzel, wait! She called out, her voice cracking. But Denzel stopped halfway to the edge of the stage and turned, calm and unshaken. No, he said, his voice steady but cutting through the silence like a blade. You wait. You wanted a viral moment. Congratulations, you just got one. The crowd didn't know what to do. Some leaned forward, others sat frozen. Jennifer's tone softened, desperate now. I was just joking, she stammered, her voice trembling. Denzel didn't even blink. Jokes, he said, interrupting her coldly, are meant to make people laugh, not reveal what you really think. The audience let out a collective gasp, The kind that comes when everyone knows they've just witnessed a line that can't be taken back. Jennifer's face went pale. The smile she tried to force back on looked broken, almost sad. Denzel took a breath, then glanced toward the audience one last time before turning back to her. His tone lowered, almost calm again, but this time it carried weight. "Respect isn't a prop for ratings, Jennifer," he said. "It's something you live, not something you pretend on camera." And with that, he walked off, slow and deliberate. The studio lights glared brighter than ever, yet somehow the stage felt darker. The door closed behind him with a quiet thud, leaving Jennifer standing alone under the hot lights, her show and her pride collapsing in the silence he left behind. The air in the studio was thick enough to choke on. Jennifer stood frozen for a few seconds, staring at the spot where Denzel had just been. The cameras were still rolling, the audience still silent. You could see her eyes flick toward the floor, then back to the lens, trying to pull herself together. She forced a shaky smile and whispered, "Well, we'll be right back." Her voice cracked halfway through, the words hanging awkwardly in the air. The show cut to commercial, but it didn't matter. The damage was already done. Within minutes, clips of the moment were everywhere. Social media lit up like a wildfire. By the end of the day, the internet had named it, "The moment respect walked out." People replayed the clip again and again, the way Denzel stood up without raising his voice, the way Jennifer's smirk disappeared in real time. Comment sections exploded with praise for Denzel's composure and criticism for Jennifer's arrogance. She tried to fix it, posting a half-hearted apology online, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. But no one bought it. Denzel said nothing, not a tweet, not an interview, not a word. Yet his silence said more than any statement ever could. It was the kind of silence that echoed, calm, final, and louder than her entire show. A week later, a reporter finally caught up with Denzel at a film charity event. Cameras flashed, microphones crowded in, and someone asked the question everyone had been waiting to hear. "Mr. Washington, any thoughts on what happened on the Jennifer Hudson show?" Denzel paused, hands in his pockets, eyes calm behind a faint smile. Then he said simply, "When you stand for something, you don't sit for disrespect." No anger, no shade, just truth, delivered with the quiet authority that had defined him for decades. It was over in 10 seconds, but those words traveled farther than the interview ever did. After that, people stopped talking about Jennifer's show and started talking about Denzel's poise. No one remembered the question that started the chaos, but everyone remembered the answer that ended it. His walk-off became a moment people replayed not for the drama, but for the lesson behind it. Respect isn't about shouting or proving a point. It's about knowing when to rise and when to walk away. And in that single calm exit, Denzel Washington reminded the world that real power doesn't need noise. It just needs timing. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss another explosive moment from television's most unpredictable talk shows. Thanks for watching, and trust me, the next one will hit even harder.